Welcome to my view of the market. I'm just going to give a daily review of stuff that I'm looking at. So you're not going to see a lot of gold or oil or financial stocks, but you are going to see some stuff that I'm interested in. You're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which gapped up higher this morning and closed up 130 points or 0.55%. You can see the last four sessions have gapped higher, gap, and you think, oh my gosh, it's getting too extended, it's getting too heated. But we have to be open-minded here in that since the liberation, rally here, we had a nice liberation rally. It's had this nice, steady kind of grind higher with a couple of pullbacks along the way. And now, you got to keep an open mind here after this little consolidation period here. Uh, I'm just saying that it could be the start of, the final leg up, a melt up here, if you will, because you can see this trajectory. If this continues here. I showed you the Nasdaq back in 99. I guess I'll do it again. Geez, I've got time. When it, rallied through 2000 here. This is the start of it, where it just started going ballistic here. And so the trajectory of the move changed and it started just ramping and melting up. And like I said, this could last 3, 4, 5, 6 months, right? Um, And this is the Nasdaq in 2000. And we knew on March 10th of 2000, that was, the end. That was the end of the story here. But you could see the trajectory change here, if you will. I don't want to get to March 10th. That day hurts me too much. But you could see it was grinding higher. And then all of a sudden it just, woo, went on this massive run to year end. And this is, nearly a 3 month run, October, November, December, still continued higher up until March 10th, and I don't want to go to March 10th. It's just too ugly. It hurts me. There it is. This is the end. Anyway, I'm going to go back to today. Thankfully, what is today? The 29th? Yes, today is the 29th. So anyway, I got that out of the way on the NASDAQ here, if you will, Marty, you dummy. Put in the date properly. Today is 10/29. I didn't plan on doing this, so I just wanted to kind of show you that this could be the start of a rising trajectory, a change of trajectory, a last melt up type of leg here that could last for months. So I just want to be open-minded. It could also have a rug pull back to the 21 any day. That's a possibility. But it just seems like we're getting better than average, 50-day average volume here, day after day after day. It's gapping up. It just seems like it wants higher. And, it is going higher. It's gapping higher and it is going higher. So I'm not, I'm just saying what's actually happening here. I'm not trying to say, well, it's going to keep gapping up. It might not, but we have a precedent there in 99. And it might not be exactly the same, but boy, it sure is super strong. And when we get in a market like this, it makes you uncomfortable to be buying things because stuff is just too high. And you're buying extended merchandise and you're thinking it can't go any higher, but it does. So it makes you feel real uncomfortable. And me, anyway, I could only speak for myself, buying stuff that's, extended and super high, but they continue to go higher. I'm going to get to that in a minute. The SPY was flat on the session, absolutely flat. It did, trade above 6,900. I think it got 6920. Some more cocktail information. Yeah, we have a 6920 high. And then the Dow, Caterpillar was helping the Dow today and Nvidia, but it closed lower. I got to go to the 5 minute chart here. You can see, yeah, right when Jerome Powell spoke here, it sold off. He didn't say that, the next meeting there's going to be a slam dunk rate cut. It's in December. Of course, he's not going to say that. He doesn't know what's going on in 6 weeks. I think it's 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks. In middle of December, we'll get another rate cut, more than likely. So the market kind of had a little conniption there in the middle of the day, but the Nasdaq fared better. Definitely something to take note of here today. Yeah, the Nasdaq sold off like the other indexes. It bounced right back. So they're buying the dips, and the Mag 7 stocks are driving this index. This is Nvidia on a daily chart, another gap higher today. This one was up over 212, yeah, up after hours. They're just buying the dips in these things. AMD was another stock powering higher. Gosh, the semiconductors are super strong, but I guess I have to go to some of the other names here. I'll go through the Mag 7. What the heck? Some of them that aren't reporting. Tesla flat in the session. Apple reports tomorrow. Yeah, making new highs, and Amazon reports tomorrow. Yeah, and I'll get to the others here in a minute. All right. Amazon, that actually looks like a really nice base. We'll see what they have to say tomorrow. All right, I'm going to take a step back to last night in earnings calls that we heard from Seagate. And I had mentioned last night that, I thought that report would be, I think last night it was trading around 235 or 240. I thought, yeah, this has got definitely a chance to make a new high. And it closed right at its, old high there of 264. 83 here. So that would be, definitely an area of interest for me. This is a nice consolidation pattern. I mean, that's all you're going to get in a market like this. And what these guys had to say really, lifted the entire computer data storage group. They're talking about, demand, Econ 101, supply and demand. There's a limited supply and massive demand. Well, then you have pricing power and a lot of good things happen for your company when in this type of environment. This is a seasonal type of company. You can see that the season here when it's in the, bear market season, and now when the tide turns and the cycle turns and we're into a powerful, strong cycle, it'll do this again, because that's what this type of company like semiconductors and data storage, that's what they do. But for right now, we also heard from Intel last week when they talked about the PCs, resurgence in PCs demand. And so this all fits in with the Seagate. And well, I'm going to get to that group here in a minute. I'm going to move on though. But Bloom Energy reported, and I did not think that there would be pin action with this because what they had to say was kind of specific just to them. It wasn't a group thing, although there's insatiable demand for energy, but they included fuel cells, which are going to add some incredible amount to their revenue here, accretive in 2026, so this is right around the corner. And Bloom, I know it was up like 140 something today and it pulled back, but I think it's going higher. The old high was 125.75, yeah, 144.20. And that was an area of interest that I was looking at. It did pull back there in the morning. You had a little bit of a chance here, a little window here as profit takers came in, drove it down to 122, but it got bought up right away and just kind of went sideways the rest of the day. I think it's going to do something like CLS did and just allow the moving averages to catch up. Yeah, CLS had a big move Tuesday. And then, had an inside day today, just allowing that moving average to catch up. But I think that one's going higher too. The high yesterday was 355.50. So you want to see it trade above there. But, just give it a couple of days. Anyway, I digress here. The big one that I want to talk about is Caterpillar because it's data center, data center, data center. We know that. We know they're building data centers. And that's why I keep coming back to that building heavy construction group. And I'm going to get to in a minute. And this is where Caterpillar is making their money right now in the data centers. But you know what data centers need? They need energy, and Bloom Energy's got the energy. So it kind of goes hand in hand, right? Caterpillar, exceptional quarter. And I'm going to get to the pin action in that group in a minute. Another semiconductor play, Teradyne. This one, big move here, 20% move. That is going to be on our another one for our power earnings gap list, which I will include on Saturday, I think. There's a lot of quality stocks that are breaking out and on earnings, 10% or more. And you could look at this, you're saying that's not a base, Marty, but yeah, it kind of is. It's still within this little base, just breaking out this week 20%. So Teradyne, and that got some good pin action in that semiconductor equipment group. And who else do we have here? Oh, FLS. This is one that I'm not real familiar with. Flowserve, breaking out of a base here. That's a thing of beauty here. 31% move with massive volume. So yeah, that looks fantastic. Flowserve will definitely be on our video this weekend, breaking out of that base there. That's a thing of beauty right there. That long consolidation, little cup. you could say that consolidation pattern is just one big handle. And now it, 30% move this week. So yeah, congrats to the longs there. All right, I wanted to take a little deeper dive. Oh, no, I have one more thing. MIR. This one is a partnering with a Westinghouse, an old name from way back in the day. And it moved up, 18% today. And there was some pin action in that group as well. This is kind of the robot, business. And once again, all these are going to need energy. So you can't get around the energy thing. Like Jensen at NVIDIA can sell all his GPUs he wants. They're going to need power. They all need power. At least Tesla has a power component. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta, they're going to probably end up buying a power company because the team with the most power is going to win. And all these CEOs are lusting for power in more ways than one. All right, I'm going to go to the pin action. I mentioned Seagate, Seagate, which is STX, not TX. This is a top group and top stocks in a top group making new highs. But, I always look to see if a company has the cachet or the power to drive other stocks within the group higher. And we take a look at SanDisk. I mentioned this, I think every day that, it pulled back 2 days. It pulled back to its five. You can see it's been surfing its five for a while. And like I said, this is a company with fundamentals. This is still trading at, 3 times sales. And it's got earnings and all that. They're going to earn what, $12 next year. Yeah, so this is not an expensive stock even after this massive run. But I want you to notice that, it made a new high on Monday and reversed lower, pulled back to the five. And I had people saying, wow, that looks like OKLO and Iris Energy, where they pulled back and they just cratered. And I said, it's kind of a different animal. One, uh, SanDisk has earnings and these guys are losing money. OKLO, to me, that's a big difference. But more importantly, if you're just trading them technically, and I think you have to trade these stocks without earnings technically, and yeah, it made this high of what, 193, and it reversed lower and it pulled back to its five. And it had been finding support at the five. The difference here with SanDisk and OKLO is that this thing crashed through its five. It crashed through its 21. With SanDisk, it pulled back 2 days and then made new highs. This thing's still not even close to making a new high. I did mention Iris Energy made that high of 74.15 on October 15th. It had been getting support at the five, right? So you think, oh, it's just going to pull back to the five, 2 days and bounce and make a new high like SanDisk, but it didn't. It crashed through the five, it crashed through the 21. Yeah, it found a bottom there at 48.20 and it started rallying back up, but here it is again, back by the five, not even close to making new highs. So compare those two charts to SanDisk, which to me is like one of the top stocks to own here. Yeah, it reversed on Monday. It made a new high. Excuse me. Yeah, Monday. It made a new high of 191.85. It reversed lower, closed 15% of the daily range, pulled back to the five, on Tuesday, made a low of 164.56, but closed at 77% of the daily range. So if you take a look at a 5-minute chart here, yeah, it sold off, made the high, sold off, and then on Tuesday sold off. But what happens? It found support at the five and bounced. And that's a type of bounce you want to see. 16%, with decent volume above what 36% above the 50-day average volume, making new highs. Making new highs is important. OKLO and Iris Energy can't do that. SanDisk can. So to me, it's a no-brainer. I want to own SanDisk. And it's going to be really uncomfortable to buy this and try to own it, but it gives you a little break here. It gives you breaks here and there. So to me, until things change, until it slices that moving average and starts heading lower to the 21, this is one that I think, I want to own and hold. WDC, another one. Yeah. The Seagate had the panache or the cachet to make Western Digital traded a new high. And this is about all you're going to get, these little bases here. This is like 3 or 4 weeks. And it was up 13% today. So they have earnings tomorrow. So we're going to hear from Western Digital. Now, if they have a blowout quarter, which they probably will, and talk about forward guidance, and they have huge demand, which they will, I don't expect, SanDisk and Seagate to have another 14 or 18% day or whatever it was. Probably not. But it just bodes well for the entire sector that these companies are, saying the same thing. There's huge demand. It's just a cyclical business, and they're in the right spot at the right time. And same with the energy group. I mentioned BE, yeah, they're in the right place at the right time. Huge demand. OKLO, I mentioned this one. Yeah, it was still up, 8% today. So Bloom did have some pin action, and so did um, LEU, this one, another one, rallied up, made a new high, pulled back. It had been finding support at the five. Did it? Nope. It did what Oklo did. Slices 21, had an inside day, and now it's above the moving averages, which is good, but a long ways off of making a new high. All right, and then SMR, I didn't check this one. Nah, 2.5%. Not bad, not a bad day though. And Nano Nuclear up 8%. So Bloom Energy did have an impact on the group, except for GEV. Just cannot get out of its own way. Look at this thing wallowing here, just consolidating. All right. I talked about Caterpillar. Does Caterpillar have the cachet to cause some pin action in its group? You betcha. Caterpillar is a big monster of a company, global company, and this is Sterling Infrastructure out of the box. What's in the box? Not Sterling. Uh, these guys are going to report next Monday, so definitely listen. Or if you're interested in the stock, if you own the stock, you definitely want to be aware of that conference call. Yeah, just strong move, and Caterpillar is that type of a company. It's 275 billion market cap. It had big move on big earnings, and that's a big gap higher at 12% for a company like that. Not too shabby. The other one is Quanta Services. Quanta, no crashes. Quanta never crashed. Um, I shouldn't say that. Uh, 424, we'll call it 425 is your trigger here. And once it got above that line right here, that's all actionable right in there. Up, above, it's actionable. Below, above, below, it's all actionable. And now it's breaking out of the box. What's in the box? Not Quanta Services. They're going to report tomorrow, though, so be careful with that one. And then PRIM, Primoris Services. They report on Monday as well. So Sterling, Quanta, and Primoris all report within the next few sessions. Something to look for in that group. It's all about data centers, and we're building data centers. We're building them like crazy, but like I said, they're not going to all be up and running until we get the power in this country, and we just don't have it. Nuclear, the old refurbishing old nuclear sites going to take a couple of years, and new ones are going to take 4 or 5 years. I wouldn't be surprised to see Google and Meta and Amazon just buy a little utility company and just get into the power business. Okay, I did mention TER. Does this have 27 billion market cap? Does this have the juice to provide some pen action? This is a nice little base. In this market with the Nasdaq doing what it's doing, it's all about market environment for me. That kind of dictates how you're going to play the game. This is a nice little consolidation pattern, right? You would consider that, or I would consider that a base. And today it broke out of that base, 20% move. But my question is, does it have the juice to move some of these other stocks? And yeah, it did. It moved Applied Materials nearly 4%. Lamb Research moved, 3.5%, 3.25%. So yeah, yeah, I was kind of surprised actually, but the semiconductors have been super strong. Anyway, I got to move on. So I covered the computer data storage, I covered the energy, I covered the building, construction, the semiconductor group. What I look for here is, the peers in the group. And then when they make a move like that, I look for a short interest. How's a short interest? And then, when stocks start topping like this, I shouldn't say topping, when they make a big move like this, I check the stochastics to see, yeah, they're, kind of fast right now, of course, with a move like that. But that's not, it's just too much stuff on the screen for me. It's very distracting. But Yeah, I think that my point is, I think the breakout goes higher, provided, this moving averages catch up. So give it a couple of days. So yeah, it's strong move on a earnings report. Power earnings gap. All right, a couple other names I was watching today. Palantir, finally, hallelujah. This thing's now almost at 200. Yeah, it was going up just like steadily all morning. 199.85. We'll call that 200. How about that? Just for the sake of, Palantir. But yeah, it was going up all day. And then I think this is when Powell spoke and got a little bit of a hiccup and then bought into the close. So that tells you they're buying the dips, right? In strong stocks like Palantir. Another one that I was watching was Shopify. I know people want to call tops. It drives me crazy. This thing, I just made a post. This is came out of the box, right? What's in the box, not Shopify. Yeah, I know it, it went higher today and then it pulled back and people want to say, oh, that's the top here because it sold off into the close. Well, maybe, maybe not. I don't think so. I think Shopify is going to continue higher. They're going to report next week. If they have a good report, they're going to go higher. That's just the facts of life. MDB, it's one that I have on my ready list. I don't think it's ready though. I think it needs to form a handle. It's been about 3 days now. It's going to need about 5 or 6, so maybe next week for MDB. They don't report till December 15th, but I like the consolidation. It's very difficult to find stocks like that are consolidating in a base that aren't extended, that don't have earnings this week or next week. So a lot of the companies are reporting. And then Robinhood kind of steadied itself. It made a high of 153 on October 6th, pulled back to the 50, found support and has bounced. Now it's, right near the 5. So Robinhood still looks good to these old eyes. All right, that's it. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Except in honor of the great Steve Jobs, we have some earnings reports. We have a lot of earnings reports, man. It's going to be a busy morning tomorrow. Tonight, we heard from Google. King Google just blasting higher up there. It was over 290 last time I checked, but still got the high today was 275, 289 after hours. You might say it's a little stretched here at 290. It had this buy point there at 256 as it consolidated in this little base. What's in the box? Not Google. Google's long gone now, folks. 290. So we'll see how it responds tomorrow. But strong report. All companies can do is deliver the goods, and they delivered the goods. Microsoft delivered too. I'm not really sure why this one's down, and I don't think it will be down tomorrow. I think they're going to come in and buy this thing up. Fantastic numbers. As you're just going gangbusters. Just all aspects. And once again, we heard Microsoft say that their PC sales, all components from PC area are super strong. So it's telling us that PC demand, which includes AMD, we heard it from Intel, we heard it from IBM, we're hearing it from Microsoft. I think AMD is going to crush them. When is it? Next week, next Tuesday. Um, yeah, and when Microsoft says something like that, you got to listen. Anyway, Meta Platforms down bigly after the hours because Zuckerberg is spending too much money. Double bottom base pattern, but like I said, the pattern doesn't mean anything. It's going to trade below 690 tomorrow, maybe. So maybe it'll be a triple bottom. We'll see what happens with Meta. It was a good quarter, though. They crushed it. It's just he's spending more and more and more and more. They're just spending like crazy. They're madmen on spending sprees, trying to get, running. They're running as fast as they can. I guess that's the best way you can say it. So that was the big three. Carvana, not so much, down 8% or $28 here. When people are getting laid off, and even if you don't get laid off yourself, you see others getting laid off, you're not going to make big ticket purchases because the possibility of a layoff is very good right now. I hate to say it. Stock market's doing great, but Main Street not so much. Ton of layoffs. They're blaming the robots. But these companies just want to get leaner and meaner, that's all. It's a cycle. ServiceNow, good report. They had a 5-for-1 stock split, which I'm really ambivalent about. So Hopefully it'll go to 100. That way I can figure a 5-1 stock split will be 200. Otherwise I'm stuck. I don't know, 185, 190. I don't know. But they're going to have a 5-1 stock split. Good report though from ServiceNow. Starbucks, oh my God, Starbucks, they're desperate. The same store sales were flat in the North America. Their sales, believe it or not, their only growth is overseas. 3% growth overseas. Their margins are shrinking. There's really nothing good about that report. They're obviously having market share taken from them. This is like the old Intel AMD story. So when Starbucks reports, bro should be up, but it's not. Anyway, and like I said, the numbers will take care of themselves eventually. Mercado Libre, they reported. I didn't hear the report. Anyway, Sprouts Farmers Market. I was surprised. This thing got hammered, 21%. I didn't read the report. I'll have more on it in the morning because I don't know what's going on here. I did see it was down 20%, so I don't know what they said. And then Chipotle Mexican Grill, the flying burrito was a fantastic stock for such a long time. And then they did the 50 for one stock split. And it's just too much supply. You can see it here, just a big anchor weight, 5,000 pound burrito weighing this stock down and just can't go anywhere. You can see the relative strength line, the relative strength number. Just something to avoid. When you see the 200 and the 50 below the 200 and the 21 and the 5 all trending lower, the relative strength line trending lower because it's versus the S&P 500 index, then you know you have a loser and you don't want to hold losers. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. We have a ton of earnings tomorrow morning, so it's going to be another busy morning. Have a great evening.